What's going on? It's your boy Mixmaster B here live from the MMB Radio Studios for the MMB Radio Podcast, where no topic is too big or too small. And on today's episode of the MMB Radio Podcast, I have a woman who has been rising up and down the charts as far as the wrestling world goes. You've seen her on AEW, you've seen her on Impact. She's just taken the wrestling world by storm. She's done modeling work. I mean, there's really not a lot that this woman has not done. Oh, and did I mention she is a cancer survivor? So that there alone makes her kick ass. I want to welcome her in right now, Tiffany Nieves. Tiffany, what's going on? Welcome.
Wow, what an intro to follow. Thank you so freaking
I
much.
try to do the best I can with that,
You did good. I can tell you did your research about me, and I appreciate that.
Well, I reached out to you because I was really interested in having you on the podcast because, we've had other wrestlers on the podcast, and I like to get into the psyche of the wrestler, of the talent when they're first starting out. Because, you can talk to the veterans of the business and you can get all the juicy stories of the, travels up and down the roads, but I like to get them when they're fresh. I want to get into their head and find out what makes them want to get into this crazy, carny world of pro wrestling.
Let me freaking tell you. I do appreciate doing interviews like this because it is a milestone when I go back and listen to myself. And this is the only, this is an opportunity for me to keep tabs on my growth when I do a podcast. So what got me into wrestling is really simple. Is the desire to entertain, the passion and need to want to entertain on a level that I've never seen before. And that's what wrestling is. Growing up, I have overall 3 sisters, 2 brothers. And growing up in New York, the Bronx, we weren't allowed to play outside much. So my outlet was the couch and the living room floor. And we hosted our own WrestleMania almost every Monday night. And so it kind of just started from a childhood aspect. And, as you grow up, things change. My parents were not together, and I ended up just living with my father alone, and he was very strict, so the wrestling ended immediately, especially during the Attitude Era. You have, Trish Stratus, coming out, and I love her, but, the position the women had at the Attitude Era wasn't age appropriate for me to watch to my dad's standards, So I kind of about 7 years, I'd say, wrestling wasn't in my life, and I kind of got into theater with school, but, after I beat cancer, I made a list of things that I needed to do. And one of them was try wrestling. And it was probably the craziest thing on my list. So I said, I'm going to do it first. And I remember I was in South Florida and I looked up wrestling school near me. I had just relocated from Orlando, and I saw this school in South Florida, and what interested me was beyond their marketing, they said, come try a day for free. And I love free. So I said, I'm there. And it's a funny story I usually share is on the phone. I've never felt like the gentleman on the phone was calling me more of a coward in the most challenging way because I was very intimidated. So I had filled out the survey of explaining why I would like to wrestle. And I didn't expect them to call me the same day. And they indeed called me about 20 minutes later. And, I pick up the phone because I am a licensed massage therapist. So it's very often I have my clients contact me via phone. So I picked up assuming maybe it's a new client, and it happened to be the school. And the school says, hello, we are, yada, yada, yada. We received your form. We're super interested in having you check out our school. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. So as we're talking, I'm telling him some of my goals, my plans, and I didn't even know who I was at that time. So whatever answer I gave him to why I want to be a wrestler was definitely the people pleaser in me trying to give the best answer. To be honest, the answer I gave him on the phone.
I feel like that's how we do any job interview, right?
Yeah, I felt like I was getting interviewed, and and I was just like, what would a wrestler say? Well, that was the day I became a worker because I worked it on the phone, but he worked me right back. And I said, I have a challenge for the new year. I want to get in the best shape ever. I want to work on stunts. Because even I felt a little, it was out of the realm to tell wrestling school, hey, I want to be a wrestler. I hadn't got used to that. So I had to justify it by saying, oh, I want to learn stunts. I'm an actress and I want to go there to learn stunts. When reality is, no, I want to make it all the way to WWE. Can you get me there? I need to know. So he said on the phone, well, if you're really serious about this challenge of getting in shape, you'd show up today. And I said, well, what do I need before I show up? Don't I
A
need,
credit card and a checkbook.
Exactly. He said, I'm thinking I need a certain, I need elbow pads. I need knee pads. I need the right equipment. I need the right sneakers. I need a notebook. I need a pen. This guy tells me just bring yourself. And I was just like, if I'll see you here if you're serious. And that was the biggest car sale he ever closed on, because I've never heard someone say you are a PUSSY the way I heard it over the phone. So I said, oh, challenge accepted.
Hmm.
And I went to a Coastal Championship Wrestling that day in South Florida, and I never stopped going. And now I'm here, and it's been a lot to get here. I started with that school, and I got more of my ring announcing. And when I decided that I needed more to become a TV star, I decided to go to Orlando, and that's where I really got my wrestling training. All my wrestling training comes from Flatbacks, which is located in Orlando, where I got trained by Sean Spears and Tyler Breeze.
Now,
So,
before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
mm-hmm,
because I want to go back, because there was a
mm-hmm.
lot going on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, of
That was
course.
like, I mean, I know you're from Florida, but that was definitely like a hurricane of information there that came
There we
flying
go.
out. But you mentioned, growing up watching wrestling with your brothers and sisters, and were you the youngest child, the oldest, middle child?
Middle, so I'm the middle child.
Okay. So
But
how
I
did
swore I was the oldest, though.
I was gonna say, so how did
Tell me.
that start about? You said father was not feeling the wrestling thing. So who was sneaking on the TV wrestling for you to get the bug about it?
Oh, me all the time. I was the
Okay.
trouble kid all the time. I was the rebellion. From a young age, my mom would say I was defiant, but I just could never fathom the fact that, like, I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a violent kid. But if I felt my creativity was limited, I became angry. I became violent. It's just don't put me in a box. So I never could understand the concept of having to ask permission for your happiness. It just didn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
If wrestling made me happy, why do I have to understand why you're telling me I can't? I just never got that. And so since a young age, it's just like, and I do it now, no one can tell me no. I don't believe in no. Like, it's impossible. Even when the doctors told me I was sick, I just was like, okay, anyways, I live the life I want, so I'll be perfectly fine. Let's move it on. So I would always test it, if I would, it got to the point where parents couldn't always be home. They're working, so I would sneak it on. But I had my two other sisters who were very terrified of my father, so they would crack all the time and rat me out. Yeah. And then
So
the
they
bigger shows,
swerved
like,
you.
yeah, and the bigger shows were the pay-per-views, and my mom would buy them, and my dad didn't. So it was just like torture watching the show the best I can. And back then, me growing up, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have playbacks over the internet, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
So if you didn't catch it live on TV, or get caught up with the pay-per-view, you were just behind. And like week after week, I was getting behind and behind to the point where I couldn't win. Growing up with my dad, he didn't allow us to, paint our nails, wear makeup, even listen to any music that had swear words in it.
So
So,
so it seemed like mom was more like accepting of the fact that you were interested in wrestling. She bought the pay-per-views.
oh, absolutely. But mom was a single mom, so my parents split at a young age. So mom did anything possible to try to have us, because I think my mom held a lot of guilt for the fact that, we were living in the Bronx, so we couldn't go outside. So if she could make inside as fun as possible, she did. So she brought us, the GameCube. She brought us every version of WrestleMania. She was totally about it, because actually, indeed, my mom grew up watching wrestling too. Um, but I will say, if we can fast forward, my dad is totally on board, totally supports me, and actually flew out all the way from Connecticut to see my first debut match.
That's very awesome. So
And
it's
so
come
did my
full
mom.
circle, that
Yeah, of
it
course.
wasn't
Yeah.
cool then, but it's just like obviously saw the passion
You
that
can't
you had
stop.
for it.
When it's meant for you, you can't stop it, even if they try. It gets added to your story. That's it.
Hmm.
So,
Now you mentioned you did theater in school, so you kind of had
yeah.
some of the aspect that goes into being a pro wrestler. But were you an athletic student? Were you involved in sports?
So it's very important, like, I can come in here and I could, put myself over as this awesome superstar, but the reality is, I want to be able to inspire at least one person, connect with one person. And this is why I have to tell you, growing up, I went to a school where safety was a priority more than extra curricular activities. And if we participated in extracurricular activities, we had to pay out of pocket because the school didn't have enough for their budget. And my mom could never do that. So when I finally moved in with my dad, I was years behind on athleticism, even in my reading, and just anything. I had no developed skill. Like a lot of these kids, they get put in sports at 3, 4 years old. I wasn't. I wasn't. I knew a lot about being street smart, but knew nothing about really being a kid. So I remember moving to Connecticut, seventh grade with my dad, and I tried out for soccer because it was free. They had, in Connecticut, the schools were different. The schools, I'd never seen a school that had lockers in it. I never had seen a school that didn't have trash. They had a backyard. They were safe. It was just insane. I'm like, wait, you can try out for sports and you don't have to pay, or I'm going to try out for every single thing. So I got rejected from the cheerleading squad. I got rejected. I didn't make the soccer team. I didn't make the basketball team. Everything I tried out for, I just didn't make. And it was track. They had no choice but to take me because they don't have tryouts for track. So I remember that was a situation where I was told no. And it really upset me because I was just like, everyone else, like, I know have the heart. Why? I'm so young. Why am I getting, rejected from something? I'm young. This is when I should, try my best to find who I am. And I feel like already the system or whatever, the school system's telling me I'm not good enough, which I think is so wrong. They shouldn't do that to any kid. I feel like everyone should make the team, and how you use them is different. But, so the following year, I tried out again, eighth grade. I didn't make any of the teams again. And I remember practicing with my dad that summer basketball and doing my best. Fast forward, when it came time to high school as a freshman, I was done with anyone telling me no. And I tried out for the volleyball team and I tried out for the basketball team, and I made both of them. And I actually was offered the opportunity to be captain for volleyball my freshman year, and then was immediately put into varsity. And with basketball, I made the JV team, which is, if you're up to date with sports, if you can't make the middle school team, you're definitely not making the high school team. If you're making the high school team, you're not going to varsity or JV, but I did. So that was the first time in my life. I get emotional because growing up from New York, like, I don't think anyone would understand how hard it was. So when I made the team in high school, maybe everyone else would see it as, oh, I made the team. I felt it was equivalent to getting a college degree to me when I
Hmm.
made the team, because I never once, I remember working and trying to make money so that I could pay for myself, to put myself through programs so I can kind of get better. So anytime I got money for my birthday or any chores or anything, my dad will tell you, I would spend $400 on a camp for like 3 weeks. And my dad thought it was ridiculous, but I did it, and it's the same thing. It goes in my wrestling career. I can't tell you the amount of, um, financial stability I have sacrificed so that I can be put into learning this craft. So it's like, I almost feel like if I didn't go through that as a young age, it might have been tougher for me to get into wrestling. So to answer your question, yes, did I play sports? Absolutely. I was very well invested with, basketball and volleyball, but it definitely didn't come to me naturally at first. I had to work really hard for it.
Yeah, and when you have a dream and you have a passion for something, it's amazing what it'll drive you to do.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
being that you didn't have the resources, you didn't have the availability to do different things, it kind of had that little bit of, I feel like you had a chip on your shoulder. That, that you're just
Mhm.
like, hey, you know what? Screw you. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep doing it because there is no other out. There is no other
Mhm.
way to get to where you want to go in life if, you decide you're not going to do this.
Yeah.
So when you go into pro wrestling, I mean, that's a different animal. I mean, it's choreographed. It is physicality. It is not track. It's not basketball, although there is athleticism in it. So take us through the emotional and physical toll that goes with being a pro wrestler, because like Mike
So,
Tyson says, everybody's got a plan, and then he gets smacked in the face, or
yeah.
punched in the face. So what was your thought process going into this? Because I mean, the guy's like, hey, just show up. You show up, but
Right.
it's not just like, hey, start tomorrow.
It's so insane because as you ask me these questions, it's forcing me to go back in time, and I get overjoyed. Like, oh, bear with me because I'm getting emotional now. Because Wrestling takes being able to connect with yourself. And fast forward a year ago, if you asked me about wrestling, probably wouldn't be breaking down the way I am now, because I've worked so hard to connect to the inner child of me that I'm okay with expressing vulnerability. I'm okay with tapping into this, and exposing this area of myself, because that helps me connect to the audience better. But getting into wrestling, wow, it's been a freaking I where I am today right now, I wouldn't believe it if you told me a year ago when I walked into the school. If you told me what I'd have to do, I wouldn't believe it. Within the first 3 months of wrestling, I broke my finger, and I broke my finger doing a leapfrog. It was a high spot, and someone completely landed on me, took me down like a football player, and that was the moment where I had to decide. And I know it's a finger. As I said earlier, I'm a massage therapist. So immediately in seconds, my well-being was taken from me. I couldn't massage anymore. And that's how I was able to afford anything. I have bills to pay. So immediately I came overwhelmed with this fear of what am I going to do? And thankfully, I worked really hard. I had a savings. But that was the moment where I realized, all right, Tiff, are you going to go all the way with this? Because you just got a sample of what it's like. Like, what happens if you break your arm now? What happens if you break your leg? How are you going to make money? Because I only made it as far as probably one semester of my associates in college, because I got sick during it and I had to get out, back out of college. So, and I never went back. I actually went to trade school. So, as much as I have a great resume, it was like, for me, the best option right now is becoming the best massage therapist. So if I eliminate that, am I accepting the fact that, like, I have nothing else to fall on? Does that follow?
Yeah.
So I had to make a decision, and the amount of people, even in the place I was training, that didn't believe in me, um, was a huge reason why I believed in me, and I had to do it. I just had to prove everyone wrong. And you're right, like, I do have this incredible chip on my shoulder. And I always say it's to prove everyone wrong, but I gotta be honest. I'm obsessed with them, because the truth is, it's really to prove me wrong. It's not them. I say it's them. I want to prove them wrong, but I want to prove it to myself that I can do it.
Hmm.
So anytime anyone doubts me, I'm like, you know what? Not that it gets in my head, but it makes me want to prove to myself that I can do it.
Yeah, I was just gonna
So,
say that. It's totally where when you were starting to explain, I was like, it's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can do it. Because if you can
yeah.
prove to yourself that you can do it, then it proves everybody else wrong.
And there's
Because
some
it's that self, gratification that you're able to do something.
boom gratification. And I got to tell you, there's this balance when you're a cancer survivor, which, thank the freaking Lord, is that I do feel this. I do feel in debt, that every day while I'm still on this earth, that I give it my 100% with everything, but also to be the kindest person I can be. So I am constantly, I mean, all day challenged with situations that challenge my character, and maybe others would find it tiring, but I find it charming. And so wrestling has challenged that aspect of me. And in times where it tried my character, which was very often, I had to think of creative ways to use it to fuel me. And that's just been my wrestling career, to be honest. Um, so yeah.
And it's funny as I'm listening to you explain this, I'm sitting here in the studio and I'm looking, and I have on my wall, I have all of the John Cena to never give up towels. And it's funny because as you're saying that, I'm looking at them, and it's like that's the mentality of never giving up, of never, giving
Mm,
in. So, kind of talk to us about when you were diagnosed with cancer. I mean,
okay.
that's something that is, I can't even wrap my mind around it, like
Mhm.
thinking about what would happen if you are told you have cancer.
Right.
So share that experience, if you will, with us of how, you were told that you had this diagnosis, and, what the
Yeah.
emotional toll that someone goes through dealing with that.
It's really neat that you brought up John Cena, because he actually plays a huge part of inspiring me. So it is that no quit attitude. But I'll never forget. There's a skill I have, and I'm still figuring out if it's good or not, because I have this skill when there's a roadblock in my way or no or anything that stops me, I go into deep denial. And this denial overdrives me to not believe the reality in front of me and only believe the perception I choose. So when I was told I was sick, I don't think I registered I was actually sick with cancer till I was 25 years old, already in remission. I had to protect myself to get through it. So I went immediately. I remember it was my first year of college. I was 17 years old. I graduated early from high school because of where my birthday was. I won't put myself over that I'm a genius, but it was basketball tryouts, and I was going for a layup, and for some reason I could not lift my right arm for nothing. And if you touch your knuckle, right? Touch your knuckle on your hand. That's how hard it felt under my armpit. And it was rough. It was like a ball, but a rough ball. And I was like, what the heck is this? And it took a while. My story of how I got diagnosed was just so much. Oh my gosh. I went through so many different wrong diagnoses before they finally found that I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I was young. So I have barely caught up with the amount of different cancers that are out there. And I remember being in the room with my mother, and he said, the great news is it's not breast cancer, but it is lymphoma. And I remember looking at my mom, and I said, Mom, I don't have cancer. This is awesome. And there's a tear coming down her eye. And right after that tear is another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And the doctor says, I'll give you guys a minute. And I look at her, and she's crying, and she goes, Tiffany, lymphoma is cancer.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that moment, because it was just like, oh, crap. Okay. And I said, well, what do we got to do? Let's get rid of it. Whatever we got to do, let's just do it. Whatever it is, let's just do it. And that was my attitude throughout. I remember sitting there, and I just thought, wow, well, this is really inconvenient. Like, how dare you, cancer? Don't you know I got things to do? Like, why? This is just inconvenience, what I thought. And never was I scared. A part of me was like, an instant bulb went in my head. This is your purpose. Tiffany, this is it, finally. Because I really felt before, I was diagnosed with cancer, I was just going through life. I had no idea what my purpose was, what I was going to do. I felt this artist in me. And finally, when I got sick, it was almost like a light in me. I mattered to the world. And my survival mattered. And if I was to go and maybe die, it would mean a lot more than if I wasn't sick. And the only way it could matter is if I go out strong. And that's when I told myself, whatever you do, you're going to do it your way. And that's it. You're going to do it your way. You're going to do it your way, and you're going to do it the best way. And that's exactly how I went about my cancer treatment. I 100% did it my way, and I had the best attitude during it, and I was able to overcome it. And I'll give you some time to catch up so you can ask another question, because there's so much to the story of how I recovered and what I went through at that time.
Yeah, because again, I mean, speaking from someone who, everybody talks about cancer, and they always say that everybody knows somebody
right
who's had cancer, and if it's like you stop and you think about it, it may not be a family member, but it's somebody. It could be a coworker, it could be somebody you went to school with, so everybody knows somebody that has cancer, but it definitely it hits a lot differently when it's a lot closer home, or it's yourself.
Of course.
So, I mean, you have these dreams of, wanting to do, theater, wrestling, all these different things. And then obviously you're going through the cancer treatment. And you mentioned about how afterwards you had a second opportunity, So touch on that, of how that drove you to go out and pursue these things. Because, again, it seems like you've had a history of life of growing up where it's like, all right, didn't have the opportunities in the Bronx, went to Connecticut, made good of a situation because it was something that was presented to you. That you're like, hey, this is here in front of me, I'm gonna seize it. Having cancer and survived, and it made like I'm looking at it as if it were me. I'm thinking to myself, man, I wonder like if I was living in the Bronx and I never had the opportunity to go to Connecticut and play sports. Or if I never was diagnosed with cancer, what do you think the outlook would have been differently had you not gone through all of this? Because I want to believe and say that it's probably going to be we may be not even having this conversation.
Yeah, this is making me emotional. Honest to God. And that's what we just got to hold on to, is that, like, everything happens for a reason. And that's why, like, you're going in the right direction of really how my life is, honest to goodness, is that I felt like cancer was almost the best thing that happened to me, you understand? And everything that's happened in my life has brought me to here right now. And it's phenomenal. And if I didn't push through and believe that the other side had something greater for me, then I don't know where I'd be. And I think a lot of people need to remember that you get through 100% of your bad days. We always do. We just have to have faith that something better is there. And how silly sometimes is it to have such blind faith and hope, right? But it's like, what do you have to lose when you're against all the odds? You've got
Mhm.
no choice. I could say, crap, you know what? I got cancer and I'm definitely going to die. Or I can start using my imagination. This creative artist in me can come alive and create 8 different scenarios of why this is the best scenario. And that's what I did. And it pushed me and it made me this person I am today. And I don't think I would be this person today, because I'll tell you, I was very angry growing up, because I did feel like I would look at the other side and I thought the grass was greener. Yeah, I said I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, but um my 2 sisters had a different life than me and my brother. Um, so I would compare myself constantly, and I felt like getting sick allowed me to review the last 17 years I lived and forgive myself, forgive my parents, stop judging, stop being so angry. And I'll tell you, that's when my wrestling journey started. It wasn't when I walked through those doors in South Florida. It definitely wasn't. It was when, I looked in the mirror and I didn't see Tiffany, right? It was when I didn't see a single hair on my body and I couldn't recognize who I was. It was when my mom lost her job because she had to take care of me full time. It was when I had to take 16 pills for breakfast and 8 for dinner, spent countless days alone in the hospital scared. That was when I said, you know, it's very possible. I told myself that I can't be going through any of this for any other reason besides the fact that it's in my cards to achieve greatness. That's all I had to think. And that got me through it 100%. There was never a backup plan. All I saw was that me, myself, and I am the plan. So we just got to get through this however we can.
And I hope that resonates with people that are listening, because it's easy to tell yourself that, it's going to be better and I'm going to get better and this is what's meant to be. But it's not always easily done. There
Mhm.
are setbacks, and I'm sure you've had your own setbacks where at one point you're thinking like, I'm going to take on the world, I'm going to kick ass. But truth be told, there's days where you're going to wake up and you're going to feel defeated. So what advice would you give the people who may be dealing with cancer, maybe dealing with other situations at home, people that are not able to achieve sports abilities and opportunities that you had? What advice would you give people to keep staying on course? Because I feel like that, it's remarkable. He talked about John Cena, and he's always, preaching, never give up, never give up. And you're like, how does someone stay positive all the time?
Yeah.
Like, what is the other, like, what support system do you have that keeps you the way you are so that you're able to, spend that energy into someone else?
Yeah. Oh gosh. And that's a great question. I'm really loving this. Pray. And if
Mm.
you are not spiritual, this message is not for you. But my answer is pray. If you are going through anything, whether it be cancer, someone with cancer, or anything, maybe you're dealing with poverty, maybe you're dealing with a loss of someone, whatever it is, you need to pray. That was my support system beyond my family and my friends that were given to me through prayer. I don't think I could be where I am today if I didn't get right with my spirit. And prayer has led me through this whole journey, because in order to get through this, it requires you to believe in you 100%, not 10%, not 99%, a full 100%. And to do so, that requires you to love yourself, bet on yourself. That requires you to trust yourself. And a lot of us haven't worked hard to feel that way about ourselves. And when I didn't, I relied on God, because in my mind, God loves me the most. In my mind, God believes in me the most. So when I couldn't be there for myself 100%, the Lord was for me. The Spirit was for me. And it made up for what I didn't have. And it got me here. That's the advice I can give. Is definitely pray, not knocking anyone who doesn't have that in their life. But if you're going through something, maybe consider adding that to your life and tell me where that gets you. I would highly recommend it.
I feel like you're gonna freestyle the next verse on a Khaled record for God Bid or something. You know, like I
that's
feel
my
like you should
man.
be doing the intro for his song. You know.
Oh gosh, no, seriously, I would go hard for him because he's gone hard for me and he's picked me up when I couldn't stand. So I definitely have to say, and if a lot of people don't have family, they don't have friends, they don't have finances, but you always have God. He's always listening, and I don't want to make this about religion because I recommend for anyone that is really going hard, dig within yourself. And whatever's in the way of you not believing in yourself 100%, get rid of it. Get rid of it. If it's your environment, whatever, get rid of it.
It's funny you say that because I always used to think people always say like we see people online who they idolize celebrities and they worship, for lack of better words, different celebrities. They give them shout outs and everything. But very rarely do you see people shout out people that they know, friends and everything. And I always would tell people that, sometimes your biggest, again, for lack of better wording here, enemies or your distractors are those that are closest to you.
100%.
Like, I get so much love from people that I don't even know. People will see me somewhere at a wrestling show and they know me from online and they're like bowing down to me like as if I'm somebody special. I'm like, who the frick am I? I'm nobody. Like, but it's such a cool feeling. But it makes you really think about like how I think as a society we've become so driven, but driven in greed, in different ways that not in positive ways. So I always tell people we're, a selfish world, where people will go ahead and they will do what they got to do for themselves, but they never give the support to other people. And then it's the rarity of people like you and I who decide that, I'm going to go out and I'm going to put my love and my support into somebody else doing well and doing good, and then hope that it just snowballs into something where someone else grabs a hold of that and then they want to do good, they want to share that love, they want to share that positive energy. Because again, we're a self-centering society, I feel like. So for anybody, my advice, and I know it's not about me, this interview is about you and this podcast is about you, but any advice I give to people, I tell them all the time. I was like, there's going to be people that in your family, people you've grown up with, close, people to you that are going to challenge you in ways that, it's not that I think that they don't love you or they don't want to support you. It's just hard for someone else to see someone else do well when they have not found peace with themselves to do well. So it's hard for them to say, hey, I wish you well. I could sit here and I go, Tiff, I don't know if you want to do wrestling. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It's a lot of physical work, like not everybody makes it. I'm going to tell you all the things because somewhere deep rooted inside of myself, I haven't accepted my own shortcomings or my own defeats. And the funny thing is those shortcomings and those defeats, they're not really shortcomings and defeats. They're only little setbacks.
100%.
Like they're not there to stop you or say you can't do something because you're living proof right now that you're able to do something. So I guess the next question I have for you is because you've only been in this business for such a short while and you've seen success, like you've been on AEW, you've been on Impact, you've done television, and then there are other people out there who may be listening to this who may have been on the grind doing the wrestling thing for 10, 15 years doing this and have not even sniffed a television studio. And I think sometimes like people misunderstand that. So when they see that, like that could be motivation to keep trying or the jealousy and the anger part comes out.
Oh yeah, and that
so
experience. Yep.
How have you dealt with anybody, if you've dealt with anybody who has looked at you a little sideways because you have achieved success in such
Yeah.
a short relative time.
Yeah, I've had people, not even people, for the amount of, you get the stereotypical people, like you said, who haven't worked on themselves, so they want to target you. And when you're carrying, such light, you're going to attract dark. So and that's what I said, like kind of in the beginning of the podcast, is that during my wrestling career, I have been challenged. And rather than seeing them as haters, I see them as motivators, really. Because I
Haters are
know,
motivators.
yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
because they don't know me or my life. So what they feel for me can't be anything that I've done, because I know that I go way beyond my way to make sure everyone's happy and comfortable. Now, you don't have to like me, but I do know if someone tends to be more aggressive or jealous, it has to do with an insecurity of themselves. And rather than flaunting my success in their face, I kind of just get down to their level, and not down on their level where I get disrespectful and angry first. I I sometimes do a little too much and I don't need to. And this is me being nice, is that I look at it like, man, you need love and no one's ever been nice to you. You're mean to someone, but no one's ever talked to you. So I make it an effort to kind of talk to people, like legit have conversations with them. And if I feel any discomfort or energy, I talk through it. People want to argue and I'll still talk through it, and I'll reinforce them with affirmation or love, because in the day they'll then realize, like, my problem isn't with this girl, it's with myself.
Hmm.
But I've had people tell me, I don't deserve it. I'm just a model. She's weak. She's only got an opportunity because she's pretty. Screw all of that. Because even if being pretty, that costs a lot of money to maintain. Every time,
God
you
knows
know,
I spend a lot of money trying to look pretty, and it hasn't worked out for me.
yeah, I've had someone tell me in a locker room once, it's not that I don't like you, I just don't respect you because. And I said, I'm not here for your respect. As long as my coach, as long as Al Snow is happy with me, Doug Basham's happy with me, my agent's happy with me, I don't care about this locker room. I'm not, if I keep you safe, that's all that matters. And she further explained, well, the reason is because you know, back in the day, people would get crap for it. Like, when The Rock left to go make movies, John Cena, everyone ribbed them and gave him such an issue. And I looked at her, this person who's telling me this, she's dating a wrestler who's trying to pursue being a rapper. And I laughed at myself, and I look at her and I think to myself, like, how, how, how does that make sense? She's upset with me because I want to maybe later on go into the acting world, but she's dating someone who wants to be a rapper and also wrestling. So just rap, I laugh at those kind of things, and that's like clear to me, clear as day. Like, okay, she wants me to be able to. When people can't relate to you, it intimidates them. So I walk in a room and I'm only happy. I refuse. If you look at my Twitter, if you look at my Facebook, if you look at my Instagram, you won't know that I'm going through anything or what triumphs I've had, because that's personal to me. And if you have the chance to sit with me, you may learn some of my problems. When I go into the locker room, I'm Tiffany Nieves, La Princesa. I'm here to perform. And I think that energy allows people to assume everything's been handed to me, things are easy, and I have a good life. And that's all, like, far from reality, besides the fact that I have a good life, because I do. I have one of the best lives I could ever have. I was thinking the other day, I went to Puerto Rico for the first time to wrestle, Chicago for the first time. All these places, Texas, all these places that I've gone to for the first time was because of wrestling. But people don't know that for the last 8 months, I have slept on a mattress or a freaking futon to make this career happen. I gave up everything so I can go to flatbacks. I gave up my job, my apartment. I drive a car that has no AC in it, that has over 200,000 miles. And it's not to put me down, but it's just, I may have made it faster than those people who've been working years because I gave up everything right away. I said, I'm going to give this my all. And I'm not saying they haven't. Some people, unfortunately, have children. Not unfortunately. Some people have families. Some people have pets. They have commitments. And it's very hard for them, so they can only wrestle on the weekends. I hate to say it, but I told myself I'm not going to be a weekend wrestler if I do this. I'm going to be a full-time wrestler. I have to give this my all. So, believe it or not, my whole car is stacked with everything. I've had my heart broken so many times in this business. I was just, I remember I gave up my apartment, which I was living in, South Florida, Hollywood, making really good money for myself, paying incredibly high rent. And I remember breaking the lease just so I could move in to my friend's living room so that I could save money to go to flatbacks. So all I was paying was my necessities. And, being the age I'm at, a little more mature, it sucks having to live in someone else's house and be a mooch, right? And sleep on a couch when you used to have, you know, I lived in South Florida. Where I lived had an infinity pool. You can take the elevator to Publix where I live. Now I'm living in someone else's house under their rules, under their circumstances, on a couch, and I felt less than, But the story doesn't stop there. It continued. When I got just enough money to go to Flatbacks, I go to Flatbacks, and I didn't have anywhere to live. I had no idea where I was going to live. And I actually, one of the boys let me stay in their living room for 3 weeks until I was able to save money, and I stayed in student housing. And student housing isn't any more comfortable. You're in there with a bunch of students that are trying to make it as a wrestler, and you're living bare minimum, very bare minimum. And right from student housing, you know, I remember Spears, I had nowhere to sleep. Every day after practice, I was going somewhere new, somewhere different. And you think I can call my mom and dad to tell them these things? No, I don't want to tell them that what I'm doing. They would, you know, how do you tell your parents, hey, it's just hard to explain to people. So I had to go through that alone. I didn't call my sisters. They don't get it. They don't understand why, you know? So I had to go through all that alone. And then, you know, during all this, I was in a relationship, and, you don't realize the people you want to take there with you sometimes are the people that don't go with you. And this requires so much. So I was away from my partner for 4 months when I went to training for Flatbacks. And then right from Flatbacks, I had nowhere to go because student housing was up. And my coach, Spears, was trying to help me find a living situation. But unfortunately, as the semester goes on, they already have the student housing pre-listed to people, if that makes sense. So I had to leave the last day of class. Again, nowhere to live once again. And I remember getting a phone call from Miss Layla Gray that changed my life. And that's the thing people need to understand is you have to be able to give it all and not be so consumed with the outcome and obsessed with how it's going to happen. You have to be open to what the universe offers you. So did I have any idea that I was going to be able to go to Flatbacks? No, I had no idea if it was going to happen, but I knew in order to do so, I had to give up my apartment. To have any idea what was going to happen with me after Flatbacks? No idea. I just needed to get through Flatbacks. And then it's funny because the first week of my practice, I broke my finger. Well, the first week at Flatbacks, I broke another finger. And then my wisdom tooth came out, and I had to have surgery while I was going through wrestling school. And that's terrible. You ever try bumping while you have you just got your wisdom teeth removed? It's awful. But we fast forward, I get a call from Layla Gray, and she's like, hey, Doug Basham, we showed him your stuff, and he wants you here for the summer tour. When can you come to Kentucky? I said, I can be there now. And I packed up my car the last day of class for Flatbacks, and I drove 14 hours to Kentucky. And I had to call my partner and say, hey, I know I told you after 4 months, maybe we can move in together and start our life, but I actually have to go away for the summer, and that's hard. So I went to Kentucky. I spent 4 months with Miss Layla Gray and Luke Curtis. They let me live with them. But that's really hard. That's really tough. I was living out of my car, and I had to get a job at Marriott making $14 an hour when I was making minimum $200 an hour doing a massage in South Florida. My life completely changed. And when the summer tour ended, I was so eager to finally have a place to, live and go home and maybe sleep in a regular bed, because at this point I've been sleeping on either, a couch or a blow-up bed for 7 months, to come home to my relationship no longer being there, because sometimes people move on, or, it's hard. It's very hard. So, I've lost relationships. I've lost, my apartment. I've lost my bed. I've lost my belongings. I only have what I need. Literally, I only have what I need. It's in my car, and I have my gear. I have a couple of outfits, and that's it. And I have me. That's it. So when people, not everyone knows that about me. And I don't have the time to try to look for people's acceptance of me. All I can do is maybe get on a podcast today and be the most authentic self. And if someone has a chance to listen to it, they keep pushing, and I'll tell my story and I'll tell my truth. So when people get upset, I'm like, that's fine. But I've given everything to be in this position right now. And I'm going to do that until I make it.
And that's so awesome to sit there and listen to that. I mean, to be able to sacrifice, it's a very humbling experience. It's be able to humble yourself to the point where you give up so much of who you are. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned about you look through your socials and you're happy and you're never sad. And I always tell people it's like the internet is not real. You know, there are
Mhm.
like, think about it. You look through anybody's social media and everything. If you judge yourself or you compare yourself because of what someone else is posting on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and you go, oh, well, you know, Tiff's got it easy. She's got it made. Look how successful she is. Nobody posts the
Of
negative
course.
stuff.
No,
You
no,
know,
not at
everybody's
all.
flexing on Instagram. You know, like that's just part of the grift to keep, you know, this upbeat mentality because at the end of the day, like you're going to look at your own stuff. Like who wants to follow somebody if they're posting all the depressing stuff?
Absolutely. And
Although it's part of the growth, it's part of the process. You know what I mean? Like people don't know what the real story is behind the scenes. So it's cool that you were able to share that with us because it's a lot of us go through it. I go through it. Everybody goes through it. We all have, you know, times where we have to sacrifice or give up things that we may not want to give up, but we have to for the end game, the end goal.
yeah,
You
don't get
know,
me wrong. I think I was a lot in my way for the first uh 8 months of my wrestling career because I was ashamed with how much I've changed and given up just to get, through wrestling, like I'm like, wow, am I, there'd be times where I had negative in my account, or maybe just $14 in my account. And I thought that reflected me. The $14 in my account reflected me. And I realized the more I embraced it and realized I don't have $14 in my account because I'm a bum with no work ethic or drive. I have $14 to my name because I believe in myself and I'm backing up myself, my own dream. I have no one sponsoring me. I am it. I am the backup plan. So every dollar I have, I put towards me, and I'm glad that I can. So I realized the less ashamed I was about my journey, the more I'm open about it. The further I got in wrestling, like right now, I'm okay to tell you I'm part time in Florida and part time in Louisville, and that's only because my friends are letting me stay with them, and I have to be part time in Louisville so I can fulfill my obligations to Ohio Valley, I mean OVW, and I also really much enjoy coming here for the training. I have flatbacks here in Florida. I have Matt Seidel that I train with here in Florida. I have Jay Lethal that I train here with Florida. But I also have Doug Basham that I train with back at home. So the thing is, I need all of them. I need all of them. And sometimes people choose one or the other. I refuse. I need them all. I need them all. So I'm going to make a way for my life where, like I just did this month, I spent 12 days in Louisville and I flew out to Florida. I'm going to spend a week here and then I'm going back to Louisville. And I'm going to do that until I become the best out there, the best that there is. And if that's what I have to do, then that's so be it. It is what it is.
and I totally commend you for all the hustle. I said the grift that you're on because we were originally supposed to do this when the hurricane was coming through Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and you were so like determined that you wanted to do this podcast, and I'm like, no, it's cool. Like my concerns at the time were I just want to make sure you're okay. And like
Yep.
I'm blowing you up, going like, "Are you okay? Like you're okay?" Because you're like, "I'm driving west. I'm driving west." And I'm like, "Okay, we can talk another time." Like I'm like, how come like I couldn't pack my mind around again talking about something like that while a hurricane, you know, of floodwaters that are 16 feet, you know,
Yeah,
and 90% of the state has no power and electricity. But not only that, but you made it up to New Jersey for Legends of the Ring
I
that
did.
weekend.
Yep.
So that
And
showed me the dedication right there. I was like, wow, she going like you're literally like running from a hurricane as it
I
was going
really
up the
was.
East Coast. You were just like leading it up this way.
And it's funny you say that because that hurricane was a lot because
Yeah.
I had to pack up my car. Remember, I'm telling you, I'm halftime in Florida, halftime in Kentucky. So what does that mean? That means I'm living out of my car. So that meant when the storm happened, I had to run away from this storm, or the only place that I have to live and has all my gear and everything. Like literally, I would hate for someone to find my car because I'm giving all the juice of what's in my car. But I've got everything in my car that could ever mean anything to me is in my car. I don't have a apartment or a house that I have, so it's in my car. So I thought, holy crap, this storm is. I got an alert because I was in St. Pete that where I was gonna flood and it was gonna be bad. So I drove to West Palm just to find out it's heading there. Then I drove to Orlando just to find out it was heading there. So the whole time it was just me trying to evade wherever the hurricane was coming because I still needed my car. And a lot of people, unfortunately, weren't as lucky as me. A lot of people lost their homes, lost their cars, even lost their lives, and are still without power right now. So
Which again
Yeah.
was wild because you were messaging me and you're like, "Hey, they're evacuating, but so what time tomorrow, would be good to talk?" And I'm like, "No time is good tomorrow. Get the frig out of there." Like just worry
I'm
about you, like I mean, I was flattered that you still wanted to talk to me that badly. I'm like, who the frig am I? You know what I mean? Like, don't need to don't put yourself in danger, your livelihood to talk to me. Um,
man.
but let me ask too, like, what do you enjoy the most about being a pro wrestler? Because again, there's a lot of grind, there is a lot of struggles with it, there is a lot of sacrificing, as you've been well documented telling us. What do you enjoy about it the most?
Um, I gotta be honest. There's multiple answers, but I gotta be honest. I enjoy the transformation. Like I see transformation happening for myself, and it sounds selfish, but I'm transforming in ways that, and at a rate, I guess I'm. It and nothing has ever challenged me to my full potential. So I never knew I could be this superstar, this amazing, strong person. And wrestling keeps revealing through the challenges how much of a freaking superstar or you know. So I guess like seeing the transformation happen and because some people go their whole life not pursuing their gift, their talent, so they have no idea the monster within them, the beast within them, that really lives. And I feel sad for those people. And wrestling allows me to acknowledge the beast within me, and that's really cool to me. So I would say that for sure.
Now, what goals do you still have? Because
Oh,
obviously you want to make it to WWE, you said, and
absolutely.
you've already, I'm assuming, checked off a lot of the stopping points getting there. AEW, Impact.
Hmm.
What is something, besides just getting to WWE? What do you envision? Say you make it there. What do you want to leave your lasting mark in the business doing?
Okay, are we talking about WWE? If
In
I
WWE or just in life in general, because like I'm interested in like what your goals are going forward, because you seem so driven. There's nothing
hmm
that's stopping or holding you back.
hmm
What's next for Tiffany?
So I would like small goals right now. If I was to think, being at OVW, I would definitely like to see the women's division continue to elevate, and I would love an opportunity to um lead the way and have the title. That's one goal of mine. I have a really awesome match coming up November 5th against Chelsea Green, and I'm really excited about that because I'm hoping that that can open the door to more opportunities. I am definitely looking to travel abroad. Um, and most importantly, though, like I love WWE, but when I went to Impact, I really, really enjoyed my time with Gail Kim. And I really feel like if I just had some time with her because she's one of those people, man. She doesn't know wrestling anything. She's doing this out of the kindness of her heart right now. She's someone who really cares about making wrestling less bad. She wants to make wrestling great, and I would love. I got a little bit of a project, but I'm working on getting a little better because I would love an opportunity to make a stop at Impact. Um, to kind of work with Gail Kim. I would like that. That's a goal of mine. But if we take it further and I do get a chance to be a part of WWE, I would love to be the face of WWE. I would love to be the connection to brands and fans. So I would love to be a part of a lot of charity work that WWE does. In the face of it, I would love to be a part of Make a Wish. I would love to hold the title. I would love to make history. I want to make history in any way I can possible, incorporating um, being an underdog. I want to keep that. I want, I mean, I want to be bigger and better than John Cena was. That's a goal for me.
Now, for people who want to know what a daily grind is doing this, and like what other opportunities do you have to do stuff outside of pro wrestling? Obviously, you said you'd like to do that acting, you've done theater, but not just that, but just having like a normal social lifestyle, if there's any kind of
It doesn't
normalcy.
exist.
I was gonna
It
say, is
doesn't.
there any kind of normal lifestyle
I
for
have
you?
headaches right now because I'm a bridesmaid to a wedding and I feel so bad. I broke down telling her, like, I don't feel worthy because I have been so absent and all she cares about is that I'll be there. I've had to miss my cousin's weddings. I've had to miss so much. I can't even hold a conversation with anyone if it's not about wrestling or wrestling business, because I'm so consumed with it. So, sometimes I don't even, my parents have no idea that I'm in Mexico or Puerto Rico till like 3 weeks later. I'm like, hey, yeah, I was in Puerto Rico. They're like, what? You didn't even tell us? I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Just, sorry. Here's the video. So it's hard. It's really hard to stay on track because at the end of the day, right now, until I get a contract, I am the talent. I am the booker. I am the designer. I am the creator. I'm all these different things. And the goal I have very little time to compromise giving up the time I have towards myself. You think I'm going to listen, I'd love to go out to coffee with you. I think it'd be great. But if it's not about how to reinvent Tiffany, I got to spend time on Tiffany until I get there. So the people in my life understand that. So I'm very thankful. And they are very persistent. They will text me like 10 times until they get a response. So that helps.
Now, you mentioned about being the creator, being the person that is in charge of everything. So describe your on-screen character. They always say that the best characters are people that are themselves, but, multiplied by 1,000. So when people see you wrestle and they see Tiffany Nieves wrestling, who are they seeing? How would you describe your character, your personality?
So Tiffany Nieves, I decided to keep the name that I was actually given at birth because I couldn't see anyone being better than Tiffany Nieves. So when people see Tiffany Nieves in the ring, they're seeing the monster, the beast, the person that says, "Are you kidding me? You think that I'd be scared of you? I'd be death, mother freaking trucker. You think I'm really scared of you? You think I won't go to the next level? You think I won't make it look good?" And people think you have to be like, I love surprising people. So Tiffany's that element of freaking surprise because um, looks can be deceiving. And that's what Tiffany thrives in, is just showing people, like, do not freaking count me out. And that's the side of Tiffany, like, to be honest, that's the side of Tiffany when I'm not in the ring. So I'm just happy that I have the opportunity to show it to people in the ring. Because I can't say that there's much of a distinct difference besides the fact that, um, from time to time, maybe a little bit of the darkness does come out. Only in the ring, though.
Now, and like I fielded some questions from fans because you have a following on social medias and people are very aware of who you are and your work in OVW and obviously following you around to AEW. And a couple of these fan questions, and someone wanted to know, so having put all the effort into being a pro wrestler, when do you ever feel like you'll walk away from this? Now, it's hard to imagine
Did
that because
my
you've only been
dad
doing
send you
it.
that question? I'm kidding.
But
Love
it's
you,
hard to
Dad.
imagine that because you haven't been in the business very long and you have so many goals and stuff that you want to accomplish. But
Listen,
realistically, like, we all don't get any younger, like, it
amen.
is a physical toll on the body. So when do you see, like an end game to this? And what do you want to do after that? I'll just add to that question. Like, what do you want to do after your days in the wrestling business are over? Do you want to pursue training? Are you content with just walking away from
Oh
the
my gosh,
business?
I would love to be in the production aspect of it.
Okay.
I would want to stay in wrestling kind of forever. And I told myself I had no idea I would be one of those people, but I don't see there's no life better than the wrestling life. I just literally spent the weekend. We packed a car with the boys and we went to Chicago, we went to Wisconsin, went to Kentucky, and I'll tell you, man, you would think my life is made up, the amount of journeys and connections I get to have. I'm sitting in the car with my best pals making memories. And, one of them's 38, the other one's 20 years old, the other one's 25 years old, and I'm no need to know years old. And, and these are memories we would have never crossed each other's paths, but now we're family. We're
Yeah.
family now.
It's a rock star lifestyle.
It's a real life rock star lifestyle. I'll tell you, it totally is. And it's just like, wow, man, we have a really cool life. This is the freaking coolest it gets. And I just can't imagine it being, I don't know. I wouldn't want to leave it. I'm addicted to it. It's an addiction now. So I feel like we'll have to see, because my life has allowed me to to manifest what I imagine. So I have to sit on that right now. But I would say it wouldn't come to a surprise to me if I find myself on the creative end of production, because I freaking love anything that has to do with cutting promos, creating promos. And I still think that if I'm in production side, I can help younger talent inspire them and put fire up their ass, because I think anyone can always use fire up their ass. um, but yeah, I see myself in this business a long time. My father has been asking me, because I told him, when I first started, Dad, I'm going to do it to this age. And if I don't see monetary money, then I'm going to stop. And my dad goes, well, it's getting close. And I'm like, sir, yeah, I'm not stopping. Because I'm this, like, if I can accomplish this much within a year, oh my goodness, I can't imagine 5 more years. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going until, and I don't even want to say what it is, because I can't even think of a thing that would stop me. I think the only thing that would stop me is that if I fall in love with something else and then want to do that.
Well, I
That's
was
the
going
only.
to say that you said about how you've lost relationships,
Mhm.
and doing this, it's not easy to have a
Yeah.
relationship, let alone have a family. And most people, they think about that. They think about, like, I'd like to have a family. Is that something that you've ever thought about, and how you would have to incorporate that into the wrestling business?
So for WWE, if I can become a part of the WWE, I think that's worth holding out. But there are times where I think if I never make it to WWE and I waited so long and never had a family, where will I be mentally? And that's a dark
Hmm.
place to go, a very dark place to go. But I want a freaking family. I want a family so bad. I want to have a long term partner. That is definitely something that I would love to have, especially with me having cancer. I think I'm very cautious with my health, and I have been, because that's something I know that I want. I want to be a mother for sure. But that's like down the road.
Hmm.
I
Well,
gotta.
the reason I ask that is because it's so much tougher
It
for
is.
women in the
Oh,
business, because
because of that.
and I feel like women in the business, and if I'm wrong, send all the tweets at MixmasterB, at MMB Radio, for saying this, because I'm
Yes.
not saying this in a way to be sexist or judgmental of anybody, but I feel women have it a lot harder than the men do in the business, because they have a shorter, like, a shelf life.
Well, and guess what? And they fail to realize that, and they'll say, you'll hear very often that women have it easier and get opportunities a lot faster. Oh, sorry, a lot faster in the business, for the simple fact that they're females and they're hot. And it's like, no, the reason why I feel women get opportunities possibly faster is because there is a shorter time for them,
Hmm.
100%. And it impresses me when you have people that are having kids, and returning back to WWE. And I'm looking at them like, wow, that's someone's mom. They're wrestling, kicking ass, doing it hardcore. And I get really inspired with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, because she's a little bit more on the mature side. And she was able to have a very long lasting career and kids and still return. So when
Hmm.
you see something like that, um,
And it's a
it,
little bit easier too, I think, with her, because Seth being in the business with her. But it can
yes,
take a toll on people who have partners that are outside of the business. So not every female wrestler who has a child with somebody who's in the business. And
100%.
and it,
Yep.
and it always makes me think about, like, how you have the sports athletes, or football players, baseball players, basketball, whatever, and they always say later on, it's like, I wish I was there more for my child. I wish I was there more. And even guys
Uh
can say it
huh.
in wrestling.
Uh huh.
That I wish I was there. I missed this opportunity. I missed that opportunity. And I think it just multiplies when you're a female, because they also, not only they're missing opportunities, but they had to go through the 9 months of pregnancy.
Oh
They
my
had to go
goodness.
through the after, giving birth, having to, and then separate yourself from your child to go back to what you're doing. And not everybody can,
Hmm.
so.
And I think the way my life has gone, um, mark my words, if this ends up happening, since a young age, I was always interested in adopting. As we're talking, I've come to terms with, like, if life decides, like, because life decides, if it's in my cards that I lose the window to have kids, I could still adopt, and I've always wanted to seek that. And and it's a possible, like, maybe I don't birth kids, maybe I could still have a family and give someone a family the way I wish I had. And that's an option I definitely before wrestling wanted to do. So hey, maybe I end up doing it.
And then another question that I have from somebody here, because I thought this was a really cool one.
Okay.
How do you decide what you wanted to use as a finisher?
Oh yeah, that's great. So of course, when you first start wrestling, you got to earn a finisher. No one is, I was very lucky. I got to defeat Miss Layla Gray my debut first match. That's unheard of. But when you're facing an underdog like Tiffany, it's realistic. But I chose my finisher. When I first got into the business, I was very eager to, have a very impactful move that maybe I would say was a little obnoxious. It looked nice on the eyes. But I started to realize maybe not everyone could take a finish like this, right? So I needed something that I can do on anybody, whether you're 8 feet tall, you're 3 feet tall. I needed to be able to get into it and out of it multiple ways so that I can get a quick win against anyone. And as I said, I'm very inspired by Gail Kim, so I chose to go with Eat the Feet, because that, to me, is such a classic, simple, but you can make it complex. You can dress it up. You can hit that move to anyone, and it's been very successful. And now that Gail I wouldn't say is retired, but now is more on the production side, I'm able to use that finisher, because Gail Kim, if you're not familiar, used that finisher for years while she was in WWE, Impact. So I'm really excited to have this match coming up with Chelsea Green, in hopes that she sees and is proud with how I hit the Eat the Feet.
Now, someone else wanted to know, because it's one of those questions you always get, is you're going to be facing Chelsea Green, but is there someone that you want to square up in the ring with? Someone that you feel would be like a dream match for you?
A dream match for me would be anyone on the WWE roster. That's a for sure. I would love to have a match against Becky Lynch, for sure. That's for me. Becky Lynch. I would like to have a match with Becky Lynch. If we were to do on a different level, right now I've been paired up with Ivelisse, and Ivelisse was one of the first people that I looked up to when I got into wrestling, and I'm itching to have a match with her.
And I know you've not only faced just women, but you've done a lot of intergender stuff as well. So
Yes.
if you had to mix it up with a male talent, who's someone that you would...
I would love to have a match against Ricochet.
Really? Okay, because I thought
Yeah.
right away you were going to go with John Cena. I was like, she's mentioned
No,
John Cena a lot, so...
Okay, Ricochet, Shawn Michaels, if he wants to do a comeback, Johnny Gargano, I think he's freaking fantastic. They're all little different styles. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite wrestler as a child?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, yeah, it was John Cena, to be honest. But I got to tell you right now, my background is Shawn Michaels, young Shawn Michaels. I had it for him.
That's why I like you. That's my favorite wrestler of all time.
100%.
I was like the Heartbreak Kid, the original, with when he first took out Jannetty. Like, that was when I was like, I just love Shawn Michaels. So it's like, I became a fan then, haven't been a fan, everybody asks me, like, who's your favorite all time? Like, Shawn Michaels, and then,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. There's others that I like, and, I'm like, I always revert back to Shawn Michaels. I was just like, the guy could just do anything, and just had and then to celebrate the 25 years of DX, I was like, I was there for that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel old as shit now, because I remember all 25 years of it.
I'll tell you one thing. I've been in intergender matches, and I had the privilege over the weekend to be a tag partner with Scotty 2 Hotty, and that's freaking cool.
Now, being a fan of John Cena and Shawn Michaels, who is someone today that is a current superstar that, aside from, like, so you've mentioned Ricochet, but who is like someone that is you keep your eye on and you're like, okay, that person might be coming after me, and I have to keep my eye out on that person. Like, what feuds do you see brewing for Tiffany?
Honestly, none, because I'm not worried about anyone.
She's like, I ain't worried about anybody. I'm taking
No
all the
one.
championships. I'm taking all the gold.
None. I don't think anyone, like, there's not one person that comes to my mind when I think that, to be honest. Not myself, maybe. That's it.
Hmm.
At this time, I don't see, I don't have an answer for that one. I'm so sorry.
So let me see a couple more of these questions, and I apologize that people that were sending in questions. First off, thank you for
No,
sending in so
yeah,
many
thank you for the
questions.
questions. I love it.
Like there were so many great questions, and there were so many that I've seen questions before in other podcasts, and so I'm trying to pick out some of the more unique ones. So this one guy tweets in, and he wants to know what is something about Tiffany that most people would be surprised to know.
Oh gosh, I think that whole life story, but let's make it up. Let's make it fun. I learned how to do a cartwheel last year for the first time in my life, and I don't know how to
Really?
work. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, I grew up very different. So yep, I uh, I learned how to do a cartwheel for the first time ever last year. Mhm.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
Any secret talents or anything that people would be surprised to know that you were able to do?
I have some funny talents that have popped the girls at sleepovers that I think I should just leave at sleepovers. So I have to get
You
creative with
got to
this
be
one.
there to have
But
seen it.
yeah, this kind of sounds kinky actually. I did not mean it that way. Like, oh, I have a secret talent that I only do at girl sleepovers. Wait a second, I need to
That
clear this.
totally went over my head, and I didn't
Oh
even think
my
of that one.
gosh. Oh gosh, great.
This one time
um,
at band camp, yeah.
right. Okay, so let's think. Ooh, I can memorize things very well when it comes to like I can learn a script in I can learn a script in like seconds. Like if you give me a small short film, I'll be able to do it the next day. I don't know, I just have this skill where I can like I'm very good at it. I don't know how to explain it. That's one thing that's interesting to me. Like I have very short-term memory, but if it comes to like memorying lines, that's one of the easiest things for me to do. Like if you told me 2 minutes before TV that I have to cut a promo, that would be a walk in the park for me immediately. Like I can just go like that. But let's think. What's a fun one? Oh, I'm the best NASCAR driver in the world. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, there's not really any way to disprove any of this,
I mean,
so.
just the fact that I wrestle, I think that's the coolest thing about me, honestly. But we're trying to think outside of wrestling, and that's just.
Well, I mean,
um,
there's people that have like
you're,
hobbies and
you're
talents and
right.
things that they just. I'm amazed when I see people and you like. I mean, just mentioning off the top of the head, like you just say like a Shawn Michaels. Like if you could
Yeah.
find out, like having watched Shawn Michaels for 30 some years, watching him being a pro wrestler, and then find out like that he was really good at like cooking
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
Okay, so I'm a Reiki master. Reiki master, which is I don't know if you're familiar with Reiki. It's energy work.
I was gonna say I'm a
Um,
mix master, so I don't know
oh,
about the Reiki mastering stuff.
yeah, so Reiki is where you work on your chakras. You have different energy levels that connect to organs in your body, and basically what this does, it removes any toxins, and you do that with
Hmm.
it's kind of increased like breath. You have to focus on your breathing, and I incorporate it because I am a massage therapist, so that's something that I became licensed in after I was in remission for cancer because that was a lot of what I did during my remission. So I'm a Reiki master, and I'm sure there'll be some people that know what that is. Like I'm obsessed with collecting crystals and using them to heal or detoxify
And I'm glad
anything.
you explained all that because when you first said that, it sounded like some Star Wars shit.
Ah,
Like I'm a
it is
Reiki
kind of
master, and I'm like,
in
a
a weird
what?
way.
You're a Trekkie, you're an Ewok, you're a what? Um, that's cool. That's something that I would
Yeah, it's
have never
different.
guessed.
Mhm.
So for
Mhm.
the person that sent in the question, thank you because
Thank
that's
you.
something you would have never just guessed.
Mhm.
And if you were able to guess that, then maybe that person has a secret power. Who
Exactly.
knows?
You got it out of me though, because I was trying to think. I'm like, hmm.
Now, everybody has a huge social media presence, and it's key to marketing and keeping yourself out there. So, where can people follow you along and kind of keep up to date with what you're doing in your
Absolutely.
travels?
Thank you so much. So the best place to catch me would certainly be Instagram and Twitter. So that's going to be Tiffany Nieves _, and it's the same for both. I try to keep it very simple. And then if you ever want to, surprise me or anything, at OBW, we do receive fan mail, so you can go ahead and just look up the address for the Davis Arena, and you can get to me that way as well.
Very awesome. Well, I have to say it was a huge honor and pleasure to talk to you because this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. And, great things come to those who are patient, So I felt like, this was going to be a good conversation. I just, we just had to wait. Mother Nature tried to throw, a curve and swerve us.
Yeah, always, yep.
So Mother Nature got in the way and there's, other things, but we got it done. And I could not be more happy to say that I spoke to you. I am happy of all of your accomplishments. I am happy to say that I know you and I've got to meet you.
Oh,
so you can check out my Instagram. You can see my photo.
We actually got to meet in person. I've never done a podcast besides the gentleman who's from OBW. I've never got to actually meet the person before the interview, so that was super cool.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just been a true honor, and you're an inspiration for just not just people that are trying to get into the wrestling business, but just people in general having kicked cancer's ass, having pretty much kicked everything's ass in the way of getting to where you want to be in life is just inspiring for myself, and hopefully other people are listening to this and are taking the same from it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share my story. And if you stay in tune, guys, I will not let you down. There are things that I did not discuss in this podcast that are coming up this year. So keep an eye out.
Yes, you got to come back on and give us more of the tea. We need to hear more of all the deets on the
Deal. Let's do that in like 6 months.
There you go. Well, Tiff, we appreciate you talking to us, and we can't wait to see more things from you coming up in the future.
Thank you. Stay beautiful, and I can't wait till this comes out. Hey guys, everyone tuning in. If you don't know, my name is Tiffany Nieves. I'm an up and coming rising star, and I really want to thank MMB Radio and Masta for setting this up.